My name is Nancy King, and I've served as the Artistic Director of Opera Wilmington for the past 6 years. I'm delighted to welcome you to this afternoon's Sunday Salon, which today features conversation and song with two of our Opera Wilmington favorites. Jamisa Yarbrough, who sang Mimi in last year's production of La Boheme and was our 2018 Katerina Yarbrough Memorial Guest Artist, and Joshua Conyers, who sang the title role of Rigoletto in our 2015 production and was our 2019 Katerina Yarbrough Memorial Guest Artist. We'll discuss their performing lives, paying homage to the legacy of Wilmington's own Katerina Yarbrough, the first African-American diva to perform with a white company in the United States, and the challenges of being a Black artist in today's climate. Following our discussion, we'll feature clips of each of our guests performing, in addition to a spotlight on the Snipes Academy of Arts and Design chorus, conducted by Krista Faison, who has joined us for the past 3 years on the Katerina Yarbrough Memorial Recital. If you're not already a follower of Opera Wilmington, we hope you'll visit our website at www.operawilmington.org for more information and follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram. I'm excited to welcome Jamisa Yarbrough and Joshua Conyers to the conversation. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the extraordinary times we're living in, including the devastating effects of COVID-19 on the opera industry and the victims of racial violence across the country. So let me just start by asking, Josh, let me start with you first. How are you doing? I know both you and your wife had recently been diagnosed with COVID, and I think you've recovered at this point, or at least I saw a post about that.
Yeah, so my wife and I had been diagnosed with COVID-19, and it was a very scary time. Getting that diagnosis, we were sitting in a car, getting swabbed by a doctor, like literally like a drive-through, like testing when we were having all of the symptoms. I got very fortunate because, I did have some like little bit of breathing problems here and there, but I recovered pretty quickly. But my wife, she had it for like 7 weeks, and she's still dealing with the effect of having COVID. Like now she's on an inhaler. She's never had asthma before. So like her lungs are still compromised. She lost like her taste and smell, and that was rough. So dealing with that, and then having to deal with George Floyd and all of the things that's happening in the world, it was super overwhelming. And at that time, because people, with COVID-19, there's a lot of people who were, not sure if it's real, is it a hoax, and now dealing with, social justice and finding our way in America and like trying to be safe as a Black man, as a Black woman in America. I just felt like, it was time for our voices to be heard. So I've been, my time has been dedicated to, making sure that like artists of color are being heard, particularly, because this is what I do. I'm an opera singer, and I want to make sure that, opera singers of color, Black people, are being heard and our voices are being heard. And, we're just trying to get the word out there to all opera companies. And we appreciate opera companies like Opera Wilmington giving us the chance and the voice to say our piece and to say, what it's like for us as African Americans in America, what life is like and what it's like to be an artist too. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to discuss this. It's been a crazy time, but Black folks, we persevere, man. We've been enslaved, and this has been a 400-year struggle. And we're here, we're ready to talk, we're ready to fight. And I would say the time is now. The climate, the change. I was here in Watertown protesting, and it's a very not diverse town. And to see me amongst a whole bunch of white people or non-POCs was a beautiful thing. I was like, the time is now when you see everybody around you protesting, saying that my life matters. And so the time is now for me to be heard. I'm going to make sure that myself and people who look like me have a chance to speak. And if I have to do whatever it takes and create a platform to do that, that's my goal.
Well, we're happy to have you here today, and we're happy to listen to you and talk about your experiences. Jamisa, tell me about how your life has been going since COVID-19 broke out, and how's your health, and how's your mental state of mind during this crazy time?
I first of all, let me say I'm so glad to hear that you and your wife are well, Joshua. I had no idea. I had no idea things were like that were happening in your home, but I'm glad to hear that you guys are in recovery. That is a blessing. For me, it's been quite isolated. Mental health has been for me the most pressing in COVID for me. I live alone. I see my family. My family lives about an hour away from me. So I see them probably once a week. And when we see each other, we don't hug, but we try to be as social as possible. We don't share utensils or touch very much when, especially at the beginning of this. I have a sister who's a nurse, and she is out there. She's doing it, and then she has two little boys, and so the family in general has been taking turns taking care of the kids because we want to make sure that she's healthy before they come home. Like there's a lot of cleaning and sterilizing to make sure that that things are just clean for them and the family in general. My mom is. Works for Duke, and with her working for Duke, they've been working from home, so she's been isolated. So at the beginning of this, the real thing that we had to do was like make sure mom was okay and that she had everything she needed, and then it started to be about the kids. And so that was at least something to focus on. But as the weeks have gone on, I've spent a lot more time alone. And then so we have all of this just general anxiety and depression that's just so high that I've been hearing amongst my friends, my musician friends who, God, just talking to them and hearing the stories of the things that have happened in their lives. And I don't know if you remember this, back when we did an interview with the radio show back in the summer, I said I had a job at a veterinary hospital. Right. I have since then stopped that job at the veterinary hospital and now have started a job working at a few churches. So as an admin person. So seeing the effects on churches and the way that people congregate and the way that people interact with each other, and seeing the way that people relate to each other, how the young are helping the old by going to get food for them, and people coming in and organizing things like a kid's birthday party. We had a kid's birthday party in the church, and we were able to do something on Zoom for him, and it made things so much more special. But still no touching. And the no touching, and and then we run right into the brick wall of George Floyd, and it was devastating for me and my family. When I didn't even know. I didn't even know initially what had happened, but when I found out, I sobbed for days. It was hard. And I was here alone, dealing with it and trying to figure out, looking at my nephews who are now 6 and 2, going, oh my gosh, it wasn't as real as it became looking in their faces. And I had it, as a female, it's different. It's a different type of thing, and we'll get into that later probably about that, but it's very different for a female than it is for a male. But we all deal with some level of it. And this just put it right in our faces. And we had no choice. We could not look away. We were stuck inside. And it's a sort of love-hate relationship with what's happened, because I love that it's starting conversations with people who never knew. I love that people are reaching out to me that I haven't talked to in years. But at the same time, the families, the people, the fact that this was been so ignored for so long has weighed heavy on me, and weighed heavy on all of the people that I know who are African American. And I'm happy now that at least some of it, at least some of what we deal with on a daily basis is being seen. And for some people, it's being seen for the first time.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if you're on social media, obviously you have a steady diet of this information coming at you, and it's not easy to take in the information, but we have to be there and be present for it. But Josh, I've seen you've done a fair number of panels now talking about this experience. I mean, I've literally not seen this many Black opera singers in one place talking about their experiences. It's a really profound experience for those of us in the business to just see and hear from you guys how you're doing. And so, would you mind mentioning some of the other panels that you've been on, so in case people want to sort of go after this event and watch some stuff?
It was called Still We Rise, created by Amanda Bottoms, who's just a fabulous Black woman she's actually of mixed race. You know, her father is a white man, so she's a mixed woman, but she is just smart, brilliant. She put this all together. She's been doing several things. So just check out Still We Rise, because I did her very first panel just with young artists from all different kinds of art. We're talking about like painters, jazz musicians, singers, teachers. And it was fabulous. She just did one with all young women, young Black women. And, you know, those panels are like refreshing and also very sad, because it's like, wow, you know, it's not just me, right? Because a lot of times at these opera companies, it's just you. You're the only Black person, the only person of color there. And all these things happen to you, and then you tell people about it, and they go, "Dang, that's crazy," or it's like seems like, "Oh, maybe do they believe me?" And then you get us together, and you hear all of these stories, and that I'm not the only one who deals with it. But then again, it's sad because, oh, I can't believe we all deal with this, you know. So it's these panels are just so important now, because right now a lot of us are sitting home, not doing anything, and people are tuned in and they're listening. You know, a lot of people have to work from home. They're on their computers, they're on their phones, and we can plug in right now to them and tell them what's going on. And also the sad part too, and you know, in these discussions is that, and something I always want to point out is that this what happened, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, all of these, you know, Ahmaud Arbery, these things are not new. You know, and you know, a lot of times we get, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, blah blah blah. But this has been going on for a very, very long time. And you know, so that's why, you know, a lot of times, because you know, there has been a lot of people are reaching out to me, a lot of, you know, who I would call allies, asking me what to do. You know, in these situations. So like, you know, the first thing I tell them is that I appreciate you for reaching out. Now it's time to educate yourself. It is 2020. You can pick up a book. I mean, we have these things right here that just has so much information. And it's like, it's time to start educating yourselves on what to do and how to be an ally. And so I tell them, you know, marching and protesting is great. Now, like, you know, I also say, like, go, you know, as you know, a lot of times I said to my wife friends, yeah, you can go to the square, but now go into your neighborhood, have that conversation with your family member, you know, have that hard conversation with your parents or your cousin. Donate your money. Money is power. Donate your money to a Black cause, because, you know, a lot of times we like to clump all POCs together, but right now this is a Black issue. You know, so like I like to tell people, like, you know, they want to say a lot of times, because I'm working on a lot of committees right now. I'm also working with the Soloist Coalition. It's like it's like a former AGMA group working with AGMA, trying to, you know, distill change for soloist artists. You know, who, you know, we want to see some change and have our you know, our AGMA, our union work better for us. And I've took it upon myself to make sure that, you know, our mission is for diversity and inclusion, and to make sure that we discuss these Black issues and to not clump us all together. We all have separate issues. We need to address all of the issues and not just say people of color will figure it all out somehow, when it's not the case. White people have their own, Black people issues, Indigenous people have issues. And right now, I want to focus on the Black issue, it's particularly Black in the arts and how we're underrepresented. And you can see all of these panels that I'm doing that there are a lot of us. And there's no longer an excuse of where are these Black people? Why can't we find any of them? We are here, we are present, and we're going to make sure that you hear us and that we, there's a lot of things to come. You're going to hear the full weight of what Black people have to say and all of the talent that we have and that we bring to the stage and to administration behind the scenes as well. So, yeah.
That's great. So we'll actually link in the comment section to some of the other panel discussions that you've been on, because I think the most powerful thing you said is that we can educate ourselves. And, right here in Wilmington, surprise, surprise, we have this world-class singer who was born here, Katerina Yarborough, and she was born in July of 1898, and the same year as the Wilmington Massacre, and not a lot of people knew about her. Certainly, I didn't know about her. I just happened to be walking behind the Cotton Exchange downtown, and behind the Wilmington Walk of Fame, there's behind the Cotton Exchange, there's this Walk of Fame, and there's a brick that was dedicated to her that says, given in 1999, and she was, the first African-American diva to perform with an all-white company in the United States. And then she went on to perform all over the world, including Paris and Vienna, and Warsaw, Madrid, and Moscow. And, just a little touch of education opens the door for us to experience, the lives of people who are just right outside our door. And Jamisa, you would remember that I sort of half stalked you on Facebook after that because your last name was conspicuously similar to Katerina Yarborough. Now, of course, Yarborough changed her name when she was living in Italy to an Italianate spelling, so it's actually Jarboro, but Yarborough, which is Jamisa's last name. So I found it, and I just ended up sending her a message and said, what do you know about this? Or have you ever heard of Katerina Yarborough? And that's sort of how the whole event in February started. The Katerina Yarborough Memorial Guest Artist Festival started. And Jamisa, do you remember those first days? And had you ever heard of Katerina Yarborough before I sort of stalked you on Facebook?
No, the answer is I had no idea. And the moment that I got my hands on that information, I just dug. It was amazing to be able to just kind of find out more about her life and about what she's, and then to be at the symposium and hear from Richard Yarborough, Dr. Richard Yarborough, about how, her life and more of those, like calling her auntie and like hearing all those little nuances and things about her life. And I think the moment for me where it became tangible and real and related so deeply to me was when I saw her picture. Mm-hmm. I saw her picture and she looks like me. We have the same cheekbones and we have the same smile. And to be able to, it creates a legacy in a way. Even if I don't know if we don't know 100% if we're linked by blood, there is a high probability that we are, based on what Dr. Yarborough told us during the symposium. Mm-hmm. Him and I talked a lot during that time about what we thought the crossover might be. Right. And so speaking to him and talking to my father and my family, we really think there is a crossover. And so it was incredible. It was an incredible chance to research and to get to know her. And it created all of a sudden this window of like understanding who I was and understanding how I might have gotten here. And I'm the only opera singer currently singing in my family. I'm the only one who is a musician in my family. And I've been the only musician for a lot of generations, like official studied classical musician. Of course, we all love music and we all sing in the shower or in the car. But I'm the first studied musician in my family. And it for me, it was like almost a tunnel, like this is where this came from. And I don't know I didn't know what it was like to have that before that moment. And I love every time I hear her name, every time I see another picture of her, every time I learn a new fact, I'm like, oh, even the repertoire, when I learned the repertoire she sang, it was like, oh, her voice must have been like this. It must have sounded this way if she's singing right. This. And it was just, I'm so grateful to you and to our very good friend, Mary Claire Curran, who just, made so many links in this. So I'm so grateful to you.
Right. And it was a really interesting, sort of research activity for some of the students and for my great colleague, Dr. Helena Spencer, who went up to the New York Public Library and was looking in the archives and found old recital programs from Katerina Yarborough touring around. Now, she did come to Thalian Hall twice, but the format that she toured across the country was what both you, Josh, and Jamisa ended up using in recital, the format of using sort of some early Italian songs, some French repertoire, and then, composers of color, a huge walking opera aria, and then some spirituals at the end. And, just to see you guys work your way through that recital format and then present it on the stage, and then to watch the community embrace you. I just think of those kids that worked with you, Josh, the Snipes Academy chorus kids. Their mouths were open. They were wide open. And this year we had Leah Hawkins, the great Metropolitan Opera rising star, coming through, and they could not believe, just the sound coming out of her mouth. But I think, the kids were also looking at you guys like, hey, they look like me, and maybe I could do that. And I just, I think providing those opportunities is really, really important for young people.
And that's why it's so important, just like what Jamisa was saying, looking and seeing that, this person, Katerina, from 7 years ago that we heard of. So like, it's important that even, in our teachings, right? When I was coming up in school, like I never heard of, wonderful African, like male singers, George Shirley, yeah. Or Simon Nestis, or Todd Duncan, or any of these guys had very successful careers in very, very difficult times when a lot of times they weren't can even sing segregated places, and it's like I didn't have the fortune to go, oh, like I can look up to this guy. He did it. Maybe I can do it too. And so it's so important for these kids to see. I actually have a story. When I was in my first fall staff at IU in school, probably shouldn't have been doing it, but I was doing it anyway at school. there was a kid in the children's chorus, a young black male, who was in that chorus. And this was in 2014, 13, something around there. And I got a message this last summer from a guy that I was working with. I was at Wolf Trap, a guy who I was working with, and he messaged me and he said, this young black man wanted me to reach out to you and tell you that when he was in the chorus, when he saw you as the lead in a show, it made him believe that he could be there one day. And that's why he is now getting his undergraduate degree at Indiana University as a vocal major. And like, little old me, like, what have I been? I'm not there or a star or anything like that, but I gave that kid the courage and just some foresight to go, if he could do it, so can I. And so that's why my mission too is I've been working a lot with kids. I work with the Newark Boys Chorus School. I'm on their
That's right. Yeah.
Advisory board. And these kids come from, very hard backgrounds. And they're boys of color who go to school for free. And some of the most beautiful boys and voices you're here. And they're the reason that, I've decided to really tell my story and where I've come from and just try to inspire kids who look like me that, there is a path out of whatever situation you have growing up. And, I'm here, I'm singing. I'm unemployed right now, but hopefully when this is over, I'll still be out there singing, and that, that other little boy or little girl, who looks like me and so, oh my gosh, he's doing it, so can I. And it's so important to educate and start teaching this to our school systems and adding it into our curriculum. It's so important. It's so important.
Yeah, I think that's, those sharing those little moments and just creating, stories and passing on that information to the next generation is really important. And I'm not saying you two are long in the tooth, but you're not just freshly out of your undergraduate. So I'm curious to know, this is an unusual time. We're left with a lot of, downtime. You're not actually practicing your craft on the stage right now. I'm curious to know what you're honing during this time of, of downtime, reflection, whatever. What are you actually doing day to day to work on your craft? It must be, without the motivation of the performance, it must be very difficult.
It is. At first it's a little depressing, so it's like, all right, too. And also I'm not, I'm always traveling. So I'm not ever home. So just being home was like, so you sit on the couch for 2 weeks. And, I should start singing. Then, so luckily when I got home, I still was technically working part-time for the Washington National Opera. So I was still making content because they needed content because they have furloughed everybody. And the young artists there were the only ones who were actually employed with a few others. So we were the only musicians employed. So I got to still take lessons, make videos, arias, coachings online, so that was really cool for a little bit. And then I started learning how to be a content creator, So now I know how to edit, create, all these different things. I've been working on my website. But when it comes to singing, I'm just trying to make sure I'm singing every day because, I'm still doing videos, having COVID and my lungs being compromised. I really had to figure out, all right, let's get back down to the basics. So I was doing a lot of breathing exercises. I was working with Laura Brooks Rice, who I've been working with lately. We were just figuring out breathing exercises, doing different things just to make sure that I went back to the basics, make sure that everything was just nice and solid. And that helped me. And I actually felt a lot stronger just doing that, just going back to the basics and just warming up correctly, breathing techniques, some stuff you take for granted when you've been doing it for a while. And just getting back to it really, really helped me through it. And I mean, I think that it kind of got me, over COVID a lot faster than some other people would, just because I was just kind of just singing through it, doing some breathing exercises through it. But I mean, right now I'm so busy that I'm more busy than I was when I was singing. It's crazy. I'm in so many meetings, conferences, making videos. I have to go make another video for another opera company, and it's due tomorrow, and I haven't done it because I've been in meetings all day for all week. So, it's just like, constant. So I'm just trying to balance all of it, and just trying to make sure. But it's just like when you're busy, you have something to look forward to, like an opera. I'm just trying to think about that. So I'm like picking up different roles to do and like pretending that I have something to prepare for.
Can you tell us what you're working on? I mean, what did you pull off the shelf to sort of?
First thing I pulled off the shelf is one of my favorites. It's Marcello and La Boheme.
Great.
So I pulled that off because I was like, okay, I know this. I can sing through this and see how it feels. And it's like, oh yeah, I haven't done this in 5 years. I don't remember how any of this first part goes. So that was sit and just relearn it. Also, I have maybe I have a job at the end of September back in DC. It's this little French opera. I haven't signed a contract yet, so I can't say what it is.
Okay.
But it's this little French opera, but we're putting a twist on it. And I'm being a cowboy. It's like a black cowboy preacher. It's like, it's
of course.
Yeah, it's very funny. And of course they were like, are you okay with this? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I think.
Well, I understand you have a place in your heart for country music, so I can imagine that's not such a bad thing for you.
I know. Listen, this song by Josh Turner, I love it to death. It's so good. It's one of my songs. It's a little bassy, but I try to sing it whenever I can.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Jamisa, what have you pulled anything off the shelf lately that you've thought, I'm going to dust this off?
Oh yeah, so all my Mozart's coming back out. All the Mozart heroines, they're all. I had a sort of revelation during this time of okay, so we know that for a long time big choruses aren't going to be together. So if big choruses aren't going to be together, that means that we're looking at operas that might have slimmer amounts of people in it. You're talking Così, you're going to be able to do a Così, you're going to be able to do a Figaro, you're going to be able to do those things. And so I started singing those things again. It took me a while, though. So when we first went sort of through COVID, I was like, oh, it'll be over, and then I'll have to be ready for things. And so as the first few weeks of it, it really hadn't set in what this meant. And so I was singing all the time. I still had a church job. So I was singing every Sunday for them. And then March hit, the end of March hit, and I was like, okay, so there's not so many church jobs to go and sing for. And then we started hearing more about what they thought this would be for opera. And things like the Met Opera Chorus and the Met Orchestra were, let go. And it was like, okay, so these are the real things. And so it really hit me mentally, mentally and emotionally, what this meant. And I kind of went into a silent mode for a few weeks. And it was hard. It was hard to pull myself out of that. It was really difficult because I was mourning for all the things that should be seen right now, all the people who should be seen, all the voices that need to be heard, including my own. And it really wasn't until yesterday that I full-fledged hollered for everything I have and sang in my house. And just sang with abandon, with my eyes closed, heart open to God, just pouring it all out. And it was invigorating, feeling what it was like to have my voice and my vibrations happening in my body, and being heard and hearing myself, really in full bloom, and after so many weeks of just not wanting to. And I cried. I cried. It was wonderful. And a lot of my friends have some of them are looking forward to having that kind of experience. And others of them, they just, it's very hard. It's been mentally very difficult for them to get to that place. And I understand it. We have to sing. We have to sing. It's a part of who we are. And so I now that I've done that, now I'm singing all the time. Now I'm singing all the time, everywhere, anytime I can. Yeah. In the car, and
Well, that's great.
So
that's great.
Just keep singing. Just keep singing.
Just keep singing. I think that's a great mantra for all of us. I'll be intrigued to see how the opera business evolves after this. I sort of, not to get too philosophical about it, but I feel like the pause button that's been hit is going to give us a chance to reassess, not just the diversity issue within opera, but also size and scope of opera. Opera Wilmington's considering commissioning, right now. Spoiler alert. And might have something to do with events in Wilmington and Katerina Yarborough. So we're looking at ways to keep opera small and creative. And I think other companies that are, sort of sitting around right now are considering similar ideas, how to be relevant, how to be inclusive, how to do it better, smaller, leaner. And I think it'll be a really interesting time coming up within the next, 2 years to see what kind of creative juices have flowed during this time and what the output is going to look like. Meanwhile, there are younger singers and Black singers in particular who are traveling through the end of their undergraduates and are faced with no auditions, just like you guys, and no opportunities, and sort of just struggling with keeping their own mental health resilient enough to even want to open up and sing and practice. And just sort of closing out our conversation here, I'm curious to know if you guys have any advice for the next generation of singers and young Black singers in particular. I mean, what they're dealing with right now. Josh, any ideas?
So just like you were just saying, when we had the crash in 2008, of course, the biggest thing that got affected is the arts, like always. And opera companies are big and grand. And what did they have to do? They had to adjust. They got smaller. We started to do different, opera companies in different venues, not having some huge venue, opera, getting opera more accessible to people, smaller, types, and, opera surviving. We're doing that. We still have some opera companies, but we have different forms of opera companies doing smaller things, doing big operas and smaller, less stuff like that, and keeping it cheaper, still doing it, and people are still coming and enjoying. Now with this, and the arts are struggling, we have this COVID-19, now more than ever is media content, right? Or what's online, and we're making that adjustment. And I tell these kids right now, you have the advantage. How they've been on these phones and connected to their machines all of their lives, and they know everything about it. They know how to make TikTok videos with whatever video. Like, still me, I'm 31 and I still don't. I'm like that.
Yeah, me either.
I got a cell phone, and when I was 18, my first computer when I was like 22. So I didn't, I wasn't, now of course, we're all in it, all the time. But I said, they really have an advantage, and take advantage of it. Start making whatever content. You can find a pianist if you can, just for, young singers or whatever, and start recording your stuff, whatever equipment you have is good quality, and just start pouring out your own content, creating websites. You have all of these forums to just put out constant content, because these opera companies, they don't have any. They don't have any content. And it's really crazy to see how behind we are when it comes to this media stuff. And they are begging, and they're like asking for permission to go into their archives, and begging our unions and stuff like that to get it, because they don't have any content. What I'm telling you, make content, make a lot of it. You have an advantage. A lot of the seasoned veterans don't have a clue how to do it. Like a lot of times there'll be companies asking you how to set it up. So start. I mean, of course, help them. Yeah. Yeah. But take advantage. Your time is now. A lot of stuff is going to go online. We probably start charging, for online stuff, stuff like that. Flood it. Flood the market. Record if you can. Find somebody have them play over a track. You sing over a track. If you can get in the room together in 6 feet social distance, do it. Record everything, because we're in a digital media, we're in a media age. Everything is digital. Do it.
Oh, that's great advice. So make your own content, young singers. There you go. Jamisa, do you have anything to say to the young artists out there listening to you?
Well, I would say, in addition to making your own content, go out and talk to those people. So, I mean, like, not go out physically, but like on those mediums, make sure that you're connecting with all of those people who are watching your content. If you don't take the time to say hello, hey, how are you? I'm so glad. Thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing. Thank you for taking the time. If you don't go out and you don't do that, you don't make connections. And let me tell you, making connections and talking to the people who are big fans of you, you have no idea how that can change every situation. I myself am really big on connecting with each and every person. Send people, people give you donations, send them a CD of you. Send them something so that they have, or audio files. You don't have to send them something physical, but send them something where they can hold on to you and you become a memory for them. Because if you can do that, you will always be in their hearts. They will always support you. Trust me, my fans, the people that I talk to, whenever, the moment they see my face in a video where I'm about to sing, they are so excited. They're reaching out to me, sending me messages. Send them something back. Send them something back. Give them something to look forward to. People need something to look forward to. And what better than your voice? What better than the little hope you can give?
Well, I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your very busy schedules to talk with us. And I know our Opera Wilmington audience loves you. And I'm hoping that some of the kids that got to perform with you guys at the Katerina Yarborough concert have a chance to see this and see your faces and know that you're doing well. And I really appreciate you giving your advice and your time to our audience. So thank you. And Josh, good health to you and your wife, and keep on keeping on. And Jamisa, great to see you, beautiful lady. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
The lads in their hundreds to Ludlow come in for the fair. There's men from the barn and the forge and the mill and the fold. The lads for the girls and the lads for the liquor are there. And there with the rest are the lads that will never be old. There's chaps from the town and the field and the till and the cart, and many to count are the stalwart, and many the brave, and many the handsome of face and the handsome of a heart, and few that will carry their looks or their truth to the grave. I wish one could know them, I wish there were tokens to tell, the fortunate fellow that now you can never discern. And then one could talk with them friendly and wish them farewell, and watch them depart on the way that they will not return. But now you may stare as you like, and there's nothing to scan, and brushing your elbow and guessed at, and not to be told, and carry back bright to the coiner the mintage of man, the lad that will die.